and center. For those of you who were at last week's drumming concert, you know the season has been announced. And my recommendation for you, since we have 6 years straight of subscription increase, is to get your tickets early and become a subscriber. It's very exciting to see Chamber Music Society butt against the trend. We have more audience than ever. And I'm also so proud of this audience. Not only you all love the concert, you also come here to join the masterclass series, and that's really fantastic for us. The masterclass series was started by me and David. The idea not only for all of you to watch the working process of how musicians produce concert, also is to pass down the knowledge to the next generation. And the whole thing is being videotaped, and it's being broadcast on the internet. I know a few of you have joined the organization from watching the masterclass on the internet, so I'm very proud of this. We also have big plans for all of our archiving and media projects. And for those of you who would like to support it, come and talk to us and be involved. We can support all these wonderful ventures that is so important for the art form of chamber music. And talking about the art form of chamber music, I told Suzanne, I want to be the one to introduce Gilbert Kalish today, who is one of my favorite, not only pianist, also mentor, and also he has served as a sort of a beacon of the a guidance for many, many of the pianists. He has done many works through Tanglewood, through Music at Menlo, through Ravinia, through his work in Stony Brook, and has guided so many of us in our life, not only as a musician, also as a person. Gil has set incredible example for all of us. And so I made a point today to clear my morning schedule so I could be here to welcome him to lead this class. And Gil will be giving a recital in April. Don't miss that. And for those of you, don't be disappointed if you can't get in. It will be broadcast through internet, through the web stream program. So let's welcome Gil Kalish to join us. Thank you so much, Gil, for giving the class.
I'm going to go back and sit there and listen to the wonderful cello sonata. Thank you very much. Thanks. Very nice. So Beethoven wrote 5 great cello sonatas throughout his lifetime. He wrote 2 early on, Opus 5, that are quite revolutionary. This is the one in the middle. And then he wrote 2 later on in his life, together, Opus 102. So this particular piece is one of the most beloved of his works. And it comes from, with Beethoven, every piece is very individual. Even pieces that are one opus number apart, even pieces that are written at the same time. There's tremendous contrast from one work to another. And this is one of the sunny works. This is a kind of celebratory work, kind of glorious work of celebrating the joy of music, the joy of life. A major, it's very open. It's also very exposed as a piece because it's very transparent. It doesn't have a lot of thickness in it and contrapuntal thickness. It has beautiful melodies. Has a lot of scale-like passages. All right, so is anything you want to say about it? Any difficulties that you've particularly encountered or questions that you have? Okay. Don't mean to put you on the spot. You don't have to have any questions. It's fine. So I want to speak about a few things. What I want to speak about primarily, since we have a short amount of time, is elements of rhythm. Rhythm, we all know what rhythm is, meter and rhythm, that music is written in a certain kind of time frame. This one is written in 4, so you have this. But there's another kind of aspect to rhythm in music, which is the length of the rhythm, that the rhythm proceeds through these kinds of grids, this kind of regularity, but it proceeds through, just as in speech, through sentences, through inflection, through variety, through lows and highs in sentences, and that's what gives meaning to it. And so we have the grid that's very important, and you're quite steady with that, and steady is okay. In fact, it's pretty good. It's not always to be desired in every aspect of your playing, and I think for you it's too much a part of what you do, the two of you. So that I'm too aware of quarter notes passing by. So, for instance, you have these kind of passages. Why don't you play this just by yourself? Okay, good. So the quarter notes are when you have etc. I'm too aware of that. That's the kind of motor of the music. That's the kind of energy, the inner energy of the music. But it's not good for us to be only aware of that. We don't speak like that. That's not the way the music speaks. So if you can be much more aware of this line going to there, rather than, and so this, it's there, but you tend to do that. So both of you do that too much. So this music really needs to soar in a certain way. And I think that will help you a lot. For instance, play if you don't mind, your passage at measure 38, just by yourself. Okay, I'm sorry, that's cruel of me to ask you to do that. So Beethoven writes these kind of inexplicable scales all the time in his music. His music often has scales, but they can't sound like they're going somewhere, and they can't sound like you're proceeding like that. So it's something that's climbing and reaching for someplace. So you need to have a kind of sense of where it's going. Can you do that again? Keep going. Great, great. That's, to me, much more eloquent. So that's kind of thing. And, you know, again, speaking about rhythm, so you were very steady, as I said. But the music changes a lot. It goes from one character to another. I mean, it's a very, it starts with this very terribly exposed solo passage for the poor cellist, with wolf notes and all kinds of things like that. But it also has very fiery music. And the element of contrast in what the two of you did was not sufficient. It's not only contrast of loud and soft, which was not sufficient in my mind, but it's also the contrast of character. So when you have ta-dum, ta-ya-dum, ta-ya-dum, ba-dum, this comes from the same material as the very beautiful opening, same notes, but transformed. So you have to transform it. So I think you were not attentive enough. I mean, we have a very hard job as musicians. We have to learn the music. But you're at a stage where I think you should go, the two of you, beyond, okay, you're playing together. You've played very well together. You were attuned to one another. You cued well. But you didn't change the music. And you didn't give yourself time and space to make those changes. So let's try to find some examples. All right, so let's start where the piano, not the beginning, but where the piano has the statement. Okay, good. All right, so you have those very, very difficult, smooth octaves that you have to play. Okay, and it's the same material as the beginning, and you repeat that material, you finish. Then you have this kind of undercurrent of excitement in the piano with the, and then, so I don't find that you're responding to that. Ta-dee-da-da-da-dee, with a kind of really lyrical outburst. You sort of say ta-dee-da-da-da-dee. I would be more responsive to that. And then tee-da-da-da-da-da-dee. Now it's a big crescendo. Ta-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da. You probably need a little time to make the effect of that crescendo, the two of you. And you do da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da. Then, what happens? A kind of extravagant cadenza. Tee-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da-dee. And then, ta, entirely different kind of music on the same pitches. Ta-dee-dee-dee-da-da-da-da. It's almost exactly the same pitches as, which is, you know, characteristic of this amazing composer, that takes a germ of notes, a little module, and transforms that throughout the work. I mean, it's a kind of amazing unity of material, but always looked at from different vantage points. So it gives a kind of really remarkable unity to the piece, but also allows for amazing variety. I mean, that's a kind of trademark of Beethoven, is the astonishingly tight kind of use of materials. He doesn't use an extravagant amount of materials. Everything that you've heard is coming from this germ of these first few notes in the cello. All right, so can you do the same thing again? Okay, try to come in off the sound of the piano. Don't come in as if you're a soloist. It's not a solo line. He's done this, you're finishing his line, and you're doing right. So don't come in with an attack, you come in off that sound. This is, of course, a hard note to play without a bump on it. So use your pedal well, you know, and tee-da-da. It's very hard for that to be legato. So help yourself out a little bit with the pedal. And so then you finish that line by staying in piano. Ta-dee-da-da-da-dee. That's a low point. Then you start. Ta-dee-da-da-dee-dee. Okay, you're kind of exploring where are we going to go with that. Okay, and you're going to go tee-da-da-da-da-da again, and again, ta-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da, you know, to that point, and then a kind of cadenza on that material. All right, now do from the whole beginning, including your nice solo. Scale. Better, good. That's it. Okay, great. Okay, nice. So to me, that's a more interesting approach. You've responded to the material a little bit more. So when you have, at the very beginning, enjoy the fact that one of the things that he does in this piece is explore the range of the cello. I mean, he quite revolutionary in the way he writes for the instrument. Even, of course, the early Opus 5 sonatas, nothing had ever been written like that for the cello. There were sonatas for the cello, but not of this kind of virtuosity, demands in the instrument, showing off the range of the instrument. And that's another thing to talk about, which we don't have a lot of time. The low register of the cello is used in a very interesting way, and you need to respect that in those parts. Even when the cello is not the main voice, it has to be a relevant part, so you have to be aware of that. He writes, so that even at the very beginning, da-dee-dee, which is sort of the center of, you know, central range. Then he explores right away the bottom of the instrument. So, I mean, be aware of that. Don't just, it sort of goes a little too matter-of-factly. So you do dee, da dee dee da dee da da dee da dee dee da dee da 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 dee. You can dwell on it a little bit. Make us listen for that. Don't say, it's just not, just don't play the bow on the string. It's really exploring something. So take advantage of that. You know, despite the difficulty of it, give that a certain kind of hushed quality. And then everything that you do after that, actually, what's important is her E. The E is a central note in this, you know, the dominant note. So even though, of course, you have the material of da-dee-da-da-da, it's the same material. You're just repeating. And then you go up an octave, da-da-da-dee-da-da-dee. But actually, you're just elaborating, so you're the kind of foundation of that beginning. So I can't tell you how long to stay on that trill, the two of you. To me, it's a little bit too long that you stay on that, and then your scale is a little bit too realistic. If you can just think, it's like that is the feeling of it, rather than, you know, rather than a scale. I mean, the scales of Beethoven have to be transformed into magical kinds of events. All right. And then here, all of this motoric, it has to really stay underneath and really start softly. Okay, then ti-da-da-da-da, and then your crescendo. Da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da. To me, you stay on too. Ti-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da. Okay, it wants to go somewhere. It's a fermata that's very hard to ascertain. I mean, it's a personal matter. But ti-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-dee. When it gets to be that why is he sitting on that note? Then it's too much. I mean, it's hard to say exactly. So for me, it was too much. And then your cadence, really make that a cadence. There's a fermata on the note, so kind of taper, and then the sudden change. All right, so from the beginning, let's see, is there anything else that I really need to say? So your scales, all of your music, when you have things like this, not every quarter, so not that, just really a flow of energy on all of that. When there's a change from fortissimo to pianissimo, you may need a little time to do that. Okay, let's do something else. Let's go from 71. Okay, now the poor cellist is in this very lowest register, which doesn't speak with real kinds of a cutting quality. So you have a tremendous amount of material and a lot of notes. You have to be incredibly sensitive and considerate of what the cellist is doing. So watch out there. And then you come to a fortissimo, and within one bar, one measure, you go to pianissimo. That was too, okay, it gets a little softer. Not a little softer. Fortissimo is an extreme mark. Pianissimo is an extreme mark. You have to, respond to that. So, I mean, that's one of the things that makes Beethoven who he is. I mean, the use of dramatic dynamics. So let's go from, was it 71, which is forte. It's a cello passage. Fortissimo, now diminuendo. Okay. Well, I'd love you to try that one more time and go beyond what you think you can do in terms of, not the loud, it's okay, I know you're doing what you can in that register, but in terms of the quality of the pianist, excuse me for 1 second. So when you get, it's again, it's another scale. Right, go ahead. Okay, he's exploring, he's looking. Go ahead. It should be a shocking change. Yeah, it should almost be frightening in a certain way. It should be jolting. So, and these, it should be something that's sort of inside the sound of the harmony, rather than, it's not any kind of thematic event. It's just exploring, going from one place to another. So same thing, and then we're gonna have to stop. Less. Shh. Okay, good. So this is the kind of place where you get, excuse me again, 1 second. So when you get from the fortissimo, big diminuendo, it might be that it takes you a little time to get to the diminuendo. So you guys do a little bit, and you do this as if nothing is happening. I mean, it goes from this to this to this, and then just staying on that kind of suspended harmony, to that harmony, to that harmony, to that. It's all harmonic movement. So it might require that you give it a little time, that you can't just take it for granted. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So, how would you characterize this piece? What's the character of the music for you? Is there a character or?
I think for me this is like sort of early, his composition, like 20s, so still young, lively.
Lively, okay.
In the mode of Mozart, Melon Sonata, sort of.
Okay. It is I mean, his life was so short. It is a relatively middle period, early. I mean, middle period, he was like 19 years old. And I mean, that's of course the tragedy of his life. But so this is written in 1817, 10 years before he died. Maybe he was 21. Okay, do you have any?
I agree.
You agree? Okay, that's good. Well, okay, I would say that it's in A major again, just as the previous work was. It's a very different world than Beethoven. And I would more characterize it as being, it's not one element alone, of course. It has many elements in it. But predominantly, it seems to me to be contemplative, lyrical, gentle, not aggressive, and not. I mean, the tempo is allegro moderato, and the whole feeling of the beginning with that just very serene opening, and the violin opening a long line. A major just sitting sort of on that harmony. So for me, the thing that I would say about your performance that I would want to work on or talk about is that it seems a little restless, and it seems a little scattered. And I think sometimes you're not attentive enough to this element of moderato, like all of the wonderful quick passages when you have it sounds a little bit like you're trying to be virtuoso with it, whereas I think it's again more singing and playful, as in the words you used, than it is virtuoso. And I think you get fast there. I think you take a faster tempo than your basic tempo. It's okay for a tempo not to be exactly alike all of the time, but I think you go back and forth too much, and your sound sometimes sounds a little bit as if it's too vibrant. Now that's a strange thing to say, but it's as if it's too urgent.
Okay.
Maybe that's the word I mean, rather than vibrant. Like there's not a kind of serenity. Notes stick out here and there. So I'd be more careful with the shape of the line and the quality of it. And so let's start at the beginning. Before I spoke with people about rhythm, various qualities of rhythm. So here you have at the beginning, tee da 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 dee da da. Can you make that into more of one line rather than I heard a little bit of kind of, can it be more that it just goes through and da da. And you set the tone with that rhythm in the left hand, and these kind of just, commentary in the right hand. And it's pianissimo. So, all right. So, I mean, that sets a kind of tone for what this is about a lot. Just, I mean, remarkably lyrical singing opening, not you don't have to press the sound here. I mean, it's, you have nothing, you're not competing with anything. It's not the piano part is not very active. It's not a lot of notes. It's not thick. So just you can sing above it without pressing the sound. So let's start at the beginning. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So the first phrase really goes all the way to there. So even when you get to the forte piano here, where you think that it might be cadencing is not da dee da da da, so da dee da, and it goes on. You think that's the end, but it isn't. And the violin has the same rhythm as ti da dee da da, ti da 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 dee, ta da ti da da dee da dee. So, and that was good. I mean, I don't mean that you should be timid, but I mean that you should be sort of inward with the sound, not, not full bore with a kind of big vibrato. That's really personal. Once more. Okay, it's interesting. It's interesting. That's very hard. Schubert is an extremely difficult composer for piano. So my theory is that his instrument was very different. It was a very light instrument. And whereas somebody like Beethoven was quite unhappy with the instrument of the time, and said so, and was quite frustrated and wanted as much power as he could get, Schubert was quite happy with his instrument. And it was very light, and it's very hard for us to duplicate that kind of sound, the kind of easy floating sound without effort. So strangely, at the beginning, you want to play pianissimo. So strangely, kind of counterintuitively, when you want to be pianissimo on the right hand with those chords, rather than being extremely loose, loose doesn't mean relaxed. You should be relaxed. So I don't want to be misunderstood. But rather than being extremely loose, you should be set. It's a much better way of getting a reliable sound to just, have your fingers set. I don't mean tense, I mean just set. But you're playing like the fingers are very loose, so it's very unreliable. So you're trying to play softly. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. So just try to have the idea that this is set like that. A very slow attack, but set. That's good. Good. That's it. Okay, so I'm not the one that should talk to you about slides because maybe I have certain disposition against too many slides. You have two slides in the first three notes. So maybe one of them rather than two of them. Which one would you prefer?
The second one.
The second one, okay. Okay, bravo, bravo. Beautiful first phrase. Can your scale-like passage have more fluency, more direction? And don't stop so often, don't interrupt the phrase quite so often as you do, the two of you. So when you have this, the also, keep it going. Don't get too self-indulgent with that, because the phrase is not over. Really carry the phrase to there. All right, so, okay, why don't we start, you don't have measure numbers, like dee da 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 dee, right. That's it. Keep going. That's the cadence. Okay, good, 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 good. All right, so let this be the cadence, and then it goes to a kind of darker music, kind of somber music. Okay, so what's your dynamic there?
There?
Yep.
The mezzo forte?
Okay, 4 bars later, what's your dynamic?
Piano?
I have pianissimo here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I don't really hear enough difference. Okay, again, now, very different. Now, I find you rush those, and the 2 notes start tia, 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 tia. Oops, sorry. So there's a kind of, pathos in tia, 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 ta dee ta da dee dee da dum. Changes like, again, instantly in Schubert from wistful, dark, somber to kind of sunny, minor, major. That's such a characteristic of his music. So how about from the measure before your mezzo forte? And now, that's it. And now, okay, and okay, be careful with your intonation. I know you can play better intonation than you're playing. Ta-dee-da-dum. So watch out, because I won't say about it, but that's like crucial. You can't. You're a very fine violinist. You can do that. I know that. So be attentive, and if you hear it, say, "Hey." That's a delicate matter, but okay. Much better for me on ti-da-ta-da-ti-da-ta-di, expressively. Let's go on. So you're at B. Okay, good, good. All right, so to my ear, you're slowing up a little bit here. It gets a little quarter notey. So ta-dee-da-da, pee-da-da-da, where are you? Okay, you're over there. Tee-da-da-da, okay. Then tee-dee-ta-da-da-da-da-dee-dum, tee-da, tee-da, tee. Now I wouldn't hesitate before the C sharp.
Okay.
You know, I mean, to me, it's the wrong place to hesitate because here is where you're going. So if you stop before the C sharp, you don't allow yourself to make that kind of point. So once again, same place. Okay, good. You can be a little more alive on that D, okay. I think, earlier. Okay, and now, okay, all right, look, these are all personal issues and questions. So is that a lively place there where you just played? More lively, more exuberant, upbeat, or darker, or what?
More joyful.
More joyful, okay. You played it that way. I mean, to me, so you go from this, tee-da-da-da, and you go to there. Those harmonies, and this harmony, and and then this surprising harmony. So to me, it's a little darker, that you're coming from tee-da-da-da, that major sound, tee-da-da-da, until that diminished. So, all right, you think about it. You know, if you decide the other way, then it's the other way. It's fine. Okay, so let's do one last time, B. Okay, all right, just let me say, in a general way, the problem with stopping so frequently is that you break it up. And that's just what I heard, that the performance got a little bit fragmented. So that's why I also say that you shouldn't do that because you're doing it here. You're doing that cadence. Don't do it so many times that you break up the line. So how about after B, you know where you are? Tee-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, good. You know, these are all subtle kinds of things. So take a look at this. Tee-da, tee-da. It's an accent. Accents are, again, different in different composers. Here it's, to me, a kind of espressivo on the note. And you're doing tee-da, tee-da. I would do more tee-da, tee-da, to really pronounce the beginning of a note with a kind of special quality. Tee-da, tee-da, ta-dee-dee-da-dum. Thank you. Okay. And then nice, beautiful crescendo, great. Tee-da-dee-dum, tee. That was beautiful, tee-dum. I would continue tee-da, tee-da-dee-da-da-da-dee, till the diminuendo. You made the diminuendo much sooner. I don't mean to be pedantic about it, but I think, you know, it's there for a reason. If you don't do it, think about, well, I don't want to do it because I think this and that. Don't just not do it. So, which would imply that the crescendo goes further than you're going, you know, ti-da, dee-dee-da, da, all the way to there, which is the diminuendo. You know, so carry that line again further. What's a good place to start? How about with those, same place? Yeah. And keep it good. Tira, tiram, tira. That's it. Okay, yeah, good. So that wonderful passage with the alternating arpeggios from the two of you that seem better. I wouldn't be any faster than that on that. I mean, it's a charming, lovely kind of place, not a virtuoso place. And this alternation between ta-ta-da-da-da-da-da-ba-ba, ta-ba, that it has a little room to breathe. Not da-da-da-da-da-ba-ba, sound a little bit forced. And then you do have to slow down a lot, because you've been so fast. Okay, but I mean, it's a natural thing to slow down there. It's okay. And should, you know, sort of continue in the same tempo that you've ended. Okay, fine, that's good. You know, you can mark things a little bit more harmonically, you know, with your left hand, even when she has, you know, ti-da-dee, I mean, you're the one providing the harmonic foundation for things. All right. Do you mind doing from C once more? Think of it really as you want to speak every note and you don't want to rush it. So. Okay. Question for you. Could that be a little more brushy? It sounds quite, you know, muscular. So I would think, it's a lot. Maybe in between. Something like that. Right. Good. A little shorter. That's it. And now enjoy this. Sorry. Okay, right. You don't want to run ta-da-da-dee, pa-da-da-da, ta-da-da-da-dee, da-da-da-da-da, ta-da-da-dee, da-da-da-da-dee, da-da-da-da-da. Really spacious. Okay, do the same thing again. So a little bit shorter than you are. That's good. And light. Okay, good, good, good. So it's such a beautiful Schubertian passage. So what do you want to do with this? Okay, then you have that, different color, da, 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 da. Then you did very beautifully. Da, da, dee, da, dee. What about this? Da, da, da. You got pretty loud there. Now, da, dee, da, dee. That's the moment, and then the cadence. So a little more kind of sensitivity to that. It was very beautiful. And it was beautiful what you did. Now again, color it differently. So double bar. And now, okay, good, good. You know, you're probably a little too self-indulgent by taking so much time so often. I think you don't do yourself a favor by doing that. I mean, what you're doing is totally musical and right. If you could do it a little less so that you don't stop the phrase, that you don't stop the piece from breaking that. Now, I've been neglecting you, I'm sorry. I mean, first it's very good, and then there's so much of the material is there. But things like, when you have these little repetitions, you know, just to carry it through, it's like one event rather than, so she plays the harmony, and you're the harmony for that. And again, it's not a bad idea if you're kind of set your fingers. Doesn't mean that you're tense. It's a much more reliable way of playing. And you can be soft more easily and color the harmony, da, 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 all of that. So it's a terribly important and difficult job, and you're sort of out of the way, out of the limelight, but it's terribly important. Okay, I need to stop. So, thank you. Okay. Bravo.
Thank you.
thank you. Hi. So let me first say a few preliminary remarks. Thinking about, we've had duos here, and this is the first larger ensemble. So chamber music is all about being yourself and yet giving yourself up. It's playing with conviction of what you believe in, yet having to join with other people who may have also very strong convictions that are perhaps different than yours, and yet making it work as a kind of unity. I mean, it's a very provocative, interesting, and challenging, and rewarding activity. It's a great thing for us as musicians. And then just another little word about balance. So often one is, as a pianist, there's a kind of sense that that's a very large instrument, that these are small instruments, and that it can easily overwhelm other instruments, and that's a major challenge for pianists playing chamber music. And just to say, it is a more subtle issue than one thinks, because it's not only an issue of loud and soft, it's an issue of quality of sound and matching other people with whom you're playing, and it's above all a matter of listening. So that, and again, that's kind of complicated, because pianist is sitting over here, the sound of the piano is coming out over there. Actually, quite a lot more for the poor cellist, notoriously, than for anybody else. And the sound of the piano immediately here is extremely live and loud and dissipates very quickly. So you're sitting back here, it's like you're sitting at the wheel of some gigantic kind of vehicle, and having to figure out, well, what is really being heard out there, and how do I figure that out? And it's an issue for all the players in the group, but particularly for the pianist. So I found that there were some issues in that way, and the way I would think to tell you to suggest to deal with it is to make sure that you're hearing your colleagues well. If you hear your colleagues well, it's very likely that they're being well heard. And if you are playing a dynamic that you are seeing and feeling and not really listening, then it's very, and then it's very likely that you might from time to time be overbalancing. So it was from time to time, it wasn't throughout at all, but it was occasionally, but occasionally enough so that I think you need to be really attentive to it. Okay, so now, as with, when you hear a bunch of people, you tend to sort of have your mind runs in a particular direction. So my mind is running in that direction today, with a little bit with rhythm. The word I didn't use before that I might want to use is, it's not good to be square. So what does it mean to be square? It means when you're relentless with the rhythm, when you're just dealing with the vertical aspect of the rhythm, vertical aspect being the beats, when you're not dealing enough with the horizontal aspect of the music. So that's one way you say you're square, because it's always the same. It's very, now, I'm using the word because I don't think this group was square. But that's the issue with being vertical, is that you just get embedded inside the beats and you don't play the line. So with this group, I'd say one of the things is that there really isn't enough characterization of things. And as is most often the case, it's not as hard to characterize loud passages, because they're loud and they're stormy. In Beethoven, this is, again, just a little aside. So this Opus 1 number 3. Why is it Opus 1 number 3? Because there's an Opus 1 number 1 and 2. And they're both trios. And it's kind of remarkable, this was his coming out party. Composers, in a way, decided when they would list the piece as having an opus number. And this was not at all the first piece that Beethoven wrote, but these were the first pieces that he decided to say, okay, I will acknowledge that this is from me, that I mean this is what represents me, it is my Opus 1. And it's always interesting to see Opus 1s in different composers. It's quite fascinating. You could have really interesting and excellent concert out of Opus 1s. Anyway, these are phenomenal. And, it's, interesting to think and how things happen. So this was written when he was probably 27 or 28. That was almost at the end of Schubert's life. So this is Opus 1 of Beethoven. So people mature at different points in his life. A great genius like this, yet the Opus 1 is here in 1797 or so. But it's full blown. It's really Beethoven. The Opus 1 number 1 and 2 are both quite joyous pieces. In joyous keys. This is in C minor. It's a dark key. Minor is dark and C minor is dark. And it's very different from the Opus 1s, the other Opus 1s. It's more concise. As usual, Beethoven being the great pianist that he was, he extended the challenges to the piano beyond what anybody else had ever done. Mozart wrote, fantastic piano pieces and was a great pianist, but Beethoven extended the technical demands on the piano enormously. So, and even in these Opus 1s, so it's quite virtuoso, which you play very well. Okay. So what's the opening dynamic, people? Piano. So I'm speaking more specifically to you. And what is the character of that opening? It's a C minor, ta-dee-da. And then what happens immediately after? Oh, he modulates somewhere else. And what does he say dynamically? He says pianissimo. See, I won't even make you answer it. So I didn't hear that. I mean, if I were, listening to the piece and didn't know what was asked, I would say, oh, whatever, mezzo forte, something like that. I don't think, this is something very hushed about it, dark. So can you start? Okay, nice. So, just as in the cello sonata, he starts this piece, and there's a kind of cadenza almost right at the beginning. He doesn't really get into the guts of the piece yet. So play by yourself on the piano, the opening. Okay. Well, two things. I would say it could be more subdued, the opening. It could, there are all kinds of sounds we could make on the piano, but somehow I want a kind of inside, okay, and then the pianist. So also, just because it's pianissimo and kind of wandering, I'd be very careful not to slow up there, because you're going to slow up in an instant right after that. So if you do this and then you don't have anything left to go. Okay, now. Now the piece begins. And to play, watch out. I mean, what does piano represent? That it's something, in this kind of agitated setting, and you need to leave room for your colleagues. So again, what one thinks is piano, it has so much to do with the context of a piece. There's not an absolute for piano. I mean, Beethoven's piano was very different. It was in a different kind of room, whatever. But piano is still, okay, that's at the low end of the spectrum usually. Sometimes there are really singing pianos, but this is a kind of piano of activity. So beginning, think of playing inside of the sound of your colleagues. You're doubling them. They're the ones should be heard. You're the one providing a kind of foundation. Okay, good. All right, we'll go on. I don't want to get stuck on this. I would say I'd love to hear your F sharp come to life a little earlier. Watch out, ta. Don't hit the resolution. So it's T, then ta 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 T, and then there's this wonderful fermata of silence. There's a fermata, then there's a fermata over your rest. So also, I mean, these are tiny details. Don't make them long, don't make it a long note. It's done. And those are, with staccatos, so they're released really. Okay, last time. Less. Shh, not slower. And fermata. That's it. Okay. A lot of very beautiful, excellent playing. I think from up here, I think the balance is basically great. I have no problem with it. So this again, personal, dolce there, and you're playing expressively. It seems quite loud to me. It's in a piano, So the same kind of expression. And then, so when violin has it, you really have to come down. Here you're not coming down enough. And then you have to be more assertive there. Cello always has an issue in a piano trio, always. Because often it's doubled by the piano line in the left hand. It's in the same register as the piano. Has an issue. It always has to try to project without forcing. So I didn't think you did enough of that. Since I heard you yesterday and heard how with such big sound you played, I think you should use that more. Okay. We know each other a little bit. So can we do from the piano dolce measure 59, is it? Yeah, 59. Okay. So, this does get into areas that are, quite subjective, I understand. So I would say that all of that is, all of that doesn't sound like a kind of piano. It should be a singing piano. Okay, so I thought it was good. Really listen that you're in canon. So you start with, and then violin takes that same material, so does the cello. Then he reiterates piano in measure, whatever it is, 76. So I would say, really should come down. This is a different kind of passage. You played really outgoing. So ti-da, pa-da-dee-da-da-ti-da. It's a very personal, intimate kind of playing it should be. So I thought it was really way out there. Personally, when I would get out of the way a little bit, to let them then really out of the way, all in a piano character. And then even more piano when you have it was not at all piano. I don't mean to be pedantic. It should be piano for, the character of the music. How do composers write dynamics? Now, I don't exactly know. But what I think is that they write the music. And then, okay, we have these poor schlubs that are going to play my music. They don't know what I mean, so I better write some dynamics. So Mozart hardly wrote dynamics. Haydn hardly wrote dynamics. Well, for Beethoven, it's already a more public kind of a thing that people are playing now. It's more for middle class kind of people who play instruments. And so, okay, he's going to put in much more detail about that, but I don't think they put it in before they write the music. In other words, the music is written. Okay, now what could I write here that would represent what I mean for the performer? Since I'm not going to be the one performing it all the time, I hope. So the dynamic represents, I think, what the composer thinks he needs to write so that you will understand what it is. So it's not an absolute thing, and I think they could struggle with that. Should I write pianissimo here? Well, or is this a piano? I write dolce. So, okay, dolce will mean this. I write espressivo, it means that. It's telling the performer, here's the best I can do to tell you what I mean for this music to represent. So the piano over here piano espressivo, da-da-dee-da-da-dee-dum. So I would say, in a way, if you didn't have the notation of the dynamic, you might know what it is anyway. It's not the notation that tells you what it is, it's the music. So when you have something like this, that, and he says collando getting slower and softer, and pianissimo, you might do that anyway. So, when he says espressivo, well, if he didn't say espressivo, you wouldn't play. Well, he didn't say espressivo. It's not what it is. He's writing after the fact. Okay, this is this kind of passage. Well, I'll tell this guy or lady that it's espressivo to give them a hint more of what I really mean. Collando, I'm dying away here. I want to get softer. Pianissimo, pianissimo. Okay, now I am Beethoven. So I'm going to write fortissimo after that, and it should be shocking. Okay, so can we do from that same Dolce? That's nice. Now cello. Get out of the way a little bit. Get out of the way. Now, now minor. Less. Now collando, dying away and slowing the and pianissimo, and okay. All right, thank you, great. So this is a place where the piano has to watch out. It is fortissimo. You're playing with these two instruments. You have to be in balance with them. That's more than they can handle. So that's where it's just a matter of listening. It's not a matter of it feels too loud, it's a matter absolutely of listening and then responding. So right on that fortissimo, and you too, whatever you can to give a lot of power, and also, again, the word vertical. Don't make the chords, the short notes, dot 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 dot, dee bum bum ba da dee da da dee da da bum, to there. Okay, good, great. So a lot of notes. You play very well. It's great, and that it's challenging. So be careful with this. You're, despite the fact they have so many notes, they have the material. They have the thematic material. So just be careful. All right. Then he reiterates. It's not good enough that he wrote fortissimo. He reiterates it. Yum pum pim pum pum there. And now, what happens in, a silly question, but what happens in 110? What's the instruction? Piano. You think you represent that? My God, it's such a, you're going from yum pum pim pum pum pim ta ta ti ta ta. You didn't do that at all. You play ta-dee-da, play very, okay, so, all right, it's a little less loud than the other. Again, it's not a matter so much of loud. It's of character. You've been in this kind of, very aggressive, stormy character with the chords, and all of a sudden, a whole change of scene. So, the half step, to F flat, dee da da, singing ta da dee da 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 dee da. Okay, he's not finished. Dee dum, dee da dee da dum. Okay, so after we do that, we're probably near stopping. So can we do from what measure is it? 98, your fortissimo. Okay, play a little bit inside this hand, a little less. Listen very carefully. Play very long line. Don't only play attack. Da dee da 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 dum deem, da dee da dum bum, all the way through the line. It's better. It's good. And then he keeps going, and now, that's it, and sing, pianissimo, and, okay, you need to play more on ti-ta-ta-ti-da, pa-pa-pa-pi. You need to get more there. Let me hear that. So let's go right from that cello place, 124. And now, and good. Okay, right. It should almost be like that you really stop and come in. Okay, I have to stop. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.